Okay, so you guys were able to see some of the groundbreakers who we brought on to do the video shoot. And what we did as a special event for this conference is we did an online award for the groundbreakers where we let the community both nominate and vote for the folks who are going to receive the award. So this was done entirely in the open. You probably saw some of the Twitter traffic for Groundbreakers for both the nominations and the folks who are going to receive the award. All four of the folks who were the top winners in terms of the number of folks who recognized them on social media, we invited to come fly out here to Oracle Code New York, and we're going to present them with some awards today, and we're also going to do a panel with them. So I think this is really exciting that we're able to recognize some folks from the community who are doing great work with open source, with diversity and women in technology, with education and teaching people about the next generation of technologies. So please join me in both celebrating and recognizing some of these folks who are advancing our development community, and also think of some questions that you guys want to ask them. So we'll have a short Q&A towards the end of the panel as well, where you guys get to ask some questions to the folks. Okay, we also have some really nice awards as well for folks who we're going to invite up on stage. So the first person I'd like to invite up is Carla DeBona. She's the founder of Reprograma, a UI and UX designer. Please come up, Carla. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You deserve it.
Yes.
And just wait here for a sec and then pose for the folks in the audience to get a quick photo shot. All right, big round of applause for Carla. Okay, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, feel free to take a seat. Okay, so the next person I'd like to invite up is somebody who you guys are intimately familiar with, a great developer, and also an inspiration for all of us when it comes to our daily lives of coding. Venkat, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, stand here for a sec for photos. Okay, thank you. So the third person I'd like to recognize is Nebraska Lamouch. He's a technical leader, an author, and a speaker, and he writes lots of great content, which you've probably seen online. Nebraska, please join me. So it's an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Oh, sorry, we're holding it the wrong way. Thank you. Okay, and please stand for some photos. Okay, thank you. All right, and last but not least, I'd like to invite Raphael Halter up on stage. So Raphael is the founder of ByteBuddy, a great contributor to the open source community, and a great friend. Come on, closer. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, and please stand here for a sec for our photos. Don't cover the words. There you go. Okay, thank you. Please have a seat. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a casual conversation with these really great people to talk about some of the things which you guys are passionate about. Here's a microphone for you. You already have your microphone? Okay, excellent. And so we were chatting earlier a bit kind of about what excites you guys about what you do, but what do you find is your passion? What gives you the drive to continue building content, to engaging with developers online? Kind of where do you find your drive from? Anyone want to start?
I think my passion is help someone to enter in the technology area. Because of that, I'm a co-founder of Reprograma, because I intend that the future is in technology, and because of that, I have to insert women, men, in the technology area.
So one of the things that excites me is, we often build applications, but then we rebuild it, and we, over time, as we add features, we try to reduce complexity. To me, that's exactly what we do in our learning process as well, because a lot of things are very complex when we get to know about them. What excites me a lot is when I'm able to understand it a little bit better, and I get excited about sharing that understanding, so the journey for somebody else is much more pleasant in terms of simplifying the ideas. So that's what I like doing, is to learn and then share that to simplify the ideas for other people.
And I think we were chatting about sharing Nebraska.
Yeah.
So,
For me, I had some difficulties when I started working, especially with knowledge, getting started with a job. So what boosts me actually to do is sharing knowledge with new people, with newbies, students, and how they can start easier their career. So as I said, sharing is caring. So when we share knowledge, we take care of newbies and let them start smoothly.
you want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, from the outside, programming always looks like you're just sitting in front of a computer and you're doing the same thing over and over again. But in reality, programming is such an exciting profession, and you get to work with people, you get to teach people the things you know, you get to learn new things from these very same people that you teach things to, and you get to reinvent your job every day, basically, and that's what's exciting about this profession.
Cool. And so I really like that, in your presentation, Venkat, you were chatting a lot about the next generation, like the younger generation of developers, who we all get to interact with and help and, mentor to become the future of our industry. So can you guys think of any examples where you've felt like you've really been able to make a difference in people's lives?
I mean, from my perspective, you probably don't see it as much if you teach people, but if I just think back I'm not being in software that long, but the first people that picked me up on my first project, and you get to basically learn everything for the first time, it's really important that someone helps you through this process. And doing the very same thing for people now, that you can mentor someone to walk through that. That's just also a great experience for everybody involved.
In Reprograma, we worked with, in general, employed women, and then women that know something, doing some graduate, but wants to work with technology, but for some reason they don't have opportunity yet. Then we invited these girls to learn how to code in 18 weeks. And then we have an event called Speed Hiring, and these women got a job. And for me, this is a big transformation, because I see women a new opportunity to her life.
So one of the things that I hear people say often is, how advanced the industry is and the demands of the industry is in terms of programmers, but how universities are often not prepared to really deliver that. And often I tell the people, well, great, now you have a problem you've identified, but it's important that you go solve it. So one of the things I always encourage people is to spend some time to go back and teach at the schools, at the universities. And of course, what good is telling others should do if I'm not willing to do it myself? And that's one of the things I realized over years ago, is that as much as I work in the industry, I still continue to teach at the university. And part of the reason I do that is if you can catch those young developers early on, and not just get them excited about technology, but one of the things that is so important in our industry is not just the knowledge, but also the discipline. How do we create quality code that becomes maintainable? And I would say that's one of the things that I've been passionate about, is to teach them to develop not just code, to not just learn technology, but also to kind of, come to this sustainable speed where they can create maintainable application as well. And that's what I would encourage other people to do, is to, spend some time with these young developers to teach them things you have taken time to learn over the years. Maybe you can inspire them to learn that in a better way.
I can join the idea of Venkat. Recently, I did some subject for a school, an engineering school in Tunisia. So we got a subject called software architecture. So as it was old software, we talking about SOAP, talking about old architecture. So what we did, we tried with the collaboration with the university to do microservices and cloud-native architecture instead of giving old SOAP content for students. So in November, we gave the subject for 50 students about microservices, Docker, Kubernetes, OpenShift, how to deal with cloud-native architecture. And hopefully what we are seeing now for the students that they are all working in trendy technologies, making new content, up-to-date content, not spending so much time to start, because we helped them starting fast, so they are producing more and they are up-to-date with the market. For me, I remember when I got graduated, I was so far from the upstream. I know EGB 2. I don't know if people has done EGB 2. So when the market was on EGB 3, so I was really out of date. So this is the idea.
Yeah, so I think any of you would probably compare. So I remember when I was taking my programming courses in college, if I had Dr. Venkat teaching me functional programming, I think I would have turned out very differently. So that's awesome. So I think you guys are all involved in technology and user interfaces and kind of building the next generation of applications. So where do you guys see technology going? Like if you were to give people advice on these are the things which really matter that they should focus their attention on, like what would it be? Is it going to be fibers? Is that the next big thing, Venkat? What's the future?
I think definitely asynchrony is something I would emphasize. In a way, if you really think about it, JavaScript got it right in the early on time, even though conceptually not implementation-wise. I think this is where Java can make a huge difference in terms of getting a really efficient implementation to this idea. So certainly asynchrony is something that I care a lot about. But there are so many other things as well that we need to really focus on. We still, as an industry, struggling to create maintainable code as well. Ask anyone to give an estimate on how much time they're going to take to finish something. That's still dark magic right now. So we can get a little bit better by creating more maintainable code. That's something we can do. But there's yet another thing outside of technology that I think we still are not paying enough attention, which is really the collaboration among developers. I remember, I always say this as a way to express my complaint about the industry. I remember the very first day I got my first job, and I go to my work, and they said, thanks for joining, and they took me to the office, and they said, here's your table, here's your chair, and they locked the room and walked away. And the very first thing I did, I remember clearly, is I dialed my wife and said, what do I do now? I'm sitting here in this room, and they expect me to do stuff, and they're paying me for it. I have no clue what to do. And I would never forget that day, because that was the worst day of my life in a way, professionally. Instead, if I was told, you have no responsibilities whatsoever, you have to just work with an experienced programmer and learn from them, I think we're still far away in that regard in our industry. So as much as technology is important, I think we need to really embrace that act of bringing people on board and onboarding them for smoother transition. We can learn better practices from other people that have taken 10, 15 years to learn it, not by isolating, but by collaborating, I think.
Yeah, I also always tell people to focus on the fundamentals, because that's basically the common ground, also because you have to work in teams. And I tell young developers especially, it's easy to get distracted, but focus on the things that really matter. Learn SQL, learn the basics of the programming language you're using, because that's going to stick around and you're going to use this again and again, and then it's easier to connect to a code base and share this with people and work together, because in the end, software has become so ubiquitous, and you have to be able to work with other people's code and maintain other people's code, so it's good to have a common ground and not like jump on every new technology out there, and take it easy and take it slow.
Okay, so mentoring, fundamentals? What else? What else do people need to be successful?
I think we have to focus and understand the possibilities, the limits, and the question related with ethics when we think about machine learning, because I'm from user experience, my background is there, and I understand that we have a lot of questions and probably changes when we think about how to create new experience with machine learning and the data that we have.
Yes. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Russ.
For me, I think that the productivity, I think where we are going now, before we never dealt with infrastructure. So now we deal, for example, to prepare containers for the deployment. We are making things, we prepare, for example, some infrastructure in Kubernetes, for example, to do something that we, as developers, didn't that before. So for the future, with the online IDEs like Eclipse, for example, or the growing of Kubernetes will boost productivity of developers. But the thing that I call for everyone and I ask everyone to do is not to be afraid from buzzwords. As Venkat said, we always like to give new names to the same thing. So always try to break the iceberg to go what means this buzzword. It's by the end, it's a concept that we know already in programming. That's it.
Okay, and I'll kind of ask you guys one last question, then we'll open it up for the audience to ask some questions. But so I think there was a lot of focus on productivity, like how you can use tools to be more efficient, and then you mentioned machine learning. So are the machines going to take over our jobs? Will the next generation of software be created by intelligent robots instead of humans?
Hopefully the boring jobs, they will be taken by the machines. But at least my
okay, so unit testing, right?
Exactly, no, but I mean, actually, there are attempts to automate unit tests, to generate tests by looking at a code base and to at least write the basic tests. And that's a good thing, because people often don't write unit tests because they think it's boring. And if you can automate these repetitive tasks by machine learning, then that's a great improvement. But I don't think we're there yet to, at least in the next decades, to give up on our careers, hopefully.
We already have the crew here, so you guys will be the trainers for the machine learning cluster. Do the reinforcement training. Dr. Venkat will teach the computers how to program better than the rest of us.
Well, one of the things that excites me is what Darwin said. It's not the fittest that survive, but the most adaptable that survives. And to me, that is the most important thing is, if you really think about it, I've been programming for 30 plus years, but the only reason I'm able to survive is because I constantly learn and constantly find better ways to do things. So if you put learning and keeping your mind agile, then it's a question of transforming as we figure out what the future is. And to Raphael's point, absolutely, things that are repetitive, that shouldn't be done by the humans, should be really automated. And then that's going to leave us with things that are still worth the human experience to develop it. And at that point, it's a question of what we can learn and adapt. And if we don't learn and adapt, we're going to perish. So that's going to be the case. That's been the case forever, actually. And this is going to only make it even more important.
And I think we are like a human, we are very creative. And I think we will create new jobs and new functions to do something related with the machines.
All right, cool. So let's open it up for some questions from the audience. So we have some folks with microphones who will run around and bring you a microphone so you can ask your question. But if you have something you want to ask the folks on stage, just raise your hand, and we'll try to get a few folks included in the Q&A session. So anyone want to take the first question? Okay, so we have, you first, Alexa? Go ahead, Alexa.
So this is a question sort of for Nebraska, but maybe for all of you. So you mentioned now programmers are dealing with Kubernetes and setting up infrastructure. Is that better, or at some point do you want that to get automated as well, so you don't have to worry about the deployment piece?
For a good developer, for me, a good developer is a lazy developer. It's a developer who does not spend so much effort to do things. For me, when I started doing microservices by the start, I was doing every stack, doing the service registry, doing the configuration server, doing everything, spending so much time, being tired, going home very tired. So when I met Kubernetes and I saw functionalities and features provided by the orchestrator, I saw that I can delegate everything for the Kubernetes, not doing service registry, eliminating so many components of the application. So spending so less effort, being so lazy, and doing the same job. So for me, it's easier, it's better, and it's lovely.
I couldn't agree more, absolutely. One of the things I want to emphasize is, learn how things work and have the wisdom not to do it manually. Learning how things work is very important because when things don't work, it's not going to be helpful to say, well, it's automated, I have no clue how it works. But we need to really understand how things work, but then have the wisdom to not have to waste the time to do it manually. But we are ready to step in when needed. That's critical.
Okay, and we had a question from the gentleman in the red shirt right here.
Hi there. If there is a 7 or 8-year-old kid standing in front of you asking you, what can I do now so that I will be as cool as you are when I get to your stage, what would you tell him or her? Thank you.
First thing I would say is I'm not cool at all. In fact, one thing I would really tell, it's a really good question, thanks for asking that. And I would say that don't be like me when I was 7 years old. I was a person with learning disabilities. I actually failed in school. It was incredibly hard for me. And what really made the difference for me was to figure out that studying is boring, but learning is fun. And that's what I really took time to figure out. I was a really bad student, but I'm a great learner. And I'm curious. I want to know how things work. And in a way that the education systems and societies are moving us in the wrong direction. And I think we need to inspire that. It's like what Da Vinci said, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but something to be lit on fire. That's what I would tell the kid is just be yourself and let your curiosity guide you, not the standards we set around as adults around what you need to learn.
I can only speak from my most experience, which is open source. If you find something that you like, you'll just continue doing it, then it's feeling recreational. It's like some people like to play Sudoku, right? And some people like to look into a code base that they created. And
some people like to stare at JVM bytecodes.
Yeah, exactly. Some people do. And I know it sounds a strange hobby, but in the end, it's the same idea. You'd like to keep your mind occupied, and then that's a great activity. And if you just follow what you're currently interested in, don't try to, again, like jump the newest trend or something, just find something that nobody else likes, like Java bytecode manipulation, and dive deep into it. And that's just a fun thing, and you can keep it doing for years and years.
And I think it's a mixing of curiosity, discipline, and focus.
Okay, so the other gentleman in the red shirt, yes?
Thank you. I would like to ask you, Dr. Venkat, about that future for programming. So we have, for example, today, machine learning, autonomous database, and maybe programming learning too in the future, so without human beings. So is it possible in the future that most programming be without people, robots, so intellectual stuff? Thank you.
Okay, so our future algorithms can be designed by machines instead of people. Anyone want to take that?
I don't know. I think we have to understand that we have some limits, and you think about that. But I think the algorithms we have to understand the possibilities and the limits. I don't know where is this. This is my question. That's when I fuck my study at this moment, because I understand that sometimes with algorithm we can use the anticipatory design, but sometimes we are take off the choose. Then what's right? What's wrong? I don't know yet.
I think it's going to be a combination of the two, but one thing that fascinates me in today's world is just the explosion of data that we have in front of us. And the sheer volume of data, it's impossible for humans to really do anything meaningful with it. So we definitely need machines to comprehend that and analyze it. But at the same time, though, there is one problem with algorithms to let them loose, which is the things we've been hearing about in terms of the biases these algorithms have as well. And so I think that's where the human intervention is still necessary to apply the context to the results. And without the context, data in, data out, garbage in, garbage out. So I think it's going to be a combination of things that is going to make it more effective. On one hand, we need the power of tools to manage the complexity and the magnitude. On the other hand, we need still the human beings to make sure that that outcome is still relevant and can help us to move in the right direction.
Okay. And I think we have time for 2 more questions. So this gentleman in the front, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Venkat, for the amazing session in the morning. My question is related to the composability, which you explained. How testability is important with composability? That's my first question. And the second one is, are the testing frameworks evolved enough to meet the future needs of programming? Or how you see the test-driven development blended with the functional programming?
Thank you. That's a really good question. So one of the things about composability is, you're absolutely right. It does seem overwhelming. But one of the key things about composability is learning the semantics of things. Let's step back for a second and talk about something we are absolutely familiar with. If I ask you, is it really hard to, test Java code? You're probably going to say, no, it's not really. Just, step through the debugger. And if I say, I'm glad you say it because I got 1,000 threads running, you're going to say, get out of here. Because the problem with threads is the non-deterministic nature of the threads. If somebody wants to test a code which is multi-threaded, the first thing you would ask them to do is to understand how the semantics of the threading works. It's the same exact thing with composability. Composability goes hand in hand with the laziness as well. If we understand the semantics of it, it becomes a lot easier to test it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, composability should not compromise cohesion. And to me, a cohesive code is a code that's very narrow, focused, and does one thing well. And by able to make the code cohesive, we are able to make it much more easy to compose. In that regard, the cohesive parts that compose together can be tested in isolation. This is one of the beautiful things about generally functional programming is that functions are pure functions. And ironically, when a function is pure, it's easier to test. So it actually goes hand in hand with that as well. So in all fairness, it's easier to test as long as we understand the semantics of it. And of course, there's no compromise for it. But it's a good point about testing tools. One of the challenges with testing tools is because of the laziness of the evaluation, there are times when your execution final endpoint may be within a lambda, for example. Then your testing tools have to be capable to know that your task is not completed when the main code is initialized, but when the lambda executes. And it depends on the language and the tools. In the terms of JavaScript, the tools are a little bit better. In the case of Java, we're still seeing development happening in this regard. This also changes with languages as well. In fact, this complexity only becomes even worse because now not only we have composability, we also have asynchrony using coroutines. And how do you really test those things? This again is where there are some tools that are favoring better testability, but the learning curve is pretty steep. So we do have to take some time to learn the right ways to do. So your point well taken, we definitely need some improvements in that area.
Okay, very good. And the last question, the gentleman in the white shirt.
Hi, Venkat. How long do you think Java can sustain in this industry?
So a few years ago, back in 2006, 2007 timeframe, I will admit I was one of those guys on the other side of the picket line constantly complaining that Java sucks. For me to really speak proudly of Java, it deserves every bit of the merit. And to me, the game changer for that was Java 8. And suddenly I saw Java running on the lawn, happy and healthy. And one of the key things to keep in mind is we tend to forget this along the way. Java as a language is not being developed by the same people anymore. It's a very different generation of programmers who are designing Java. And knowing who those people are, I have to tell you that I'm absolutely thrilled to see where the language is going. I'm not suggesting by any means that people who did in the past were no good. They were phenomenal. But it's a different generation of people who are maintaining the language. The language has been around for 20 plus years, close to that now. And as a result, it's a different set of people with a different mindset, different desires moving the language forward. A lot of people were worried about the release cadence of Java, but honestly, I'm absolutely thrilled about it because it removes the impediments for the language to move faster in a better way. Java is not being developed in a 6-month cycle. Java is being released in a 6-month cycle, which means that developers are able to spend the time to bring in quality, but don't have to wait for 7 years to see that being realized in the industry. So if you ask me how confident I am with Java, I'm going to say that I'm absolutely confident for at least the next 10 years. No language has survived this long. Java is definitely something that's an outlier in this regard. But I'm more confident about Java today than I was 7 years ago.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so a big round of applause for our entire panel. And I appreciate you guys sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge. And you guys will get to see more presentations and content like what Venkat and others have shared on stage. And you can also continue to ask these guys interview questions at the Groundbreaker Award panel area on the right side of the stage from your perspective. So, thank you guys very much. So, we have a few housekeeping notes before everyone runs off, so just give me 5 more minutes. So, quick photo opportunity with folks on stage. Here, move in, ship. All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, so a few notes for the conference as you guys are going around. So we have a few product announcements. Oracle Database 18c is now released, so you can use this for free. Oracle XE is now available for free. You can also test 19c at livesql.oracle.com. So this is the latest version of Oracle Database you can try online right now. A quick note about our new Java 12 release. We talked a bit about Java technology. Donald Smith, who is one of the product managers for Java, is here. So you can find out the latest information directly from the folks who build the technology in Donald's session at 11:30 in Hall E, room 8. You can also check out Java, which is officially part of our Oracle Cloud builds. So Java 8, 11, and 12 are now part of Oracle Linux. You can download them directly off the Yum servers. And we also have a new developer image. So the developer image includes Java, DevOps, different OCI tools, the latest releases of Java, SE 11 and 12, and then SQL Developer. So give that a try. We talked a bit about how to become a groundbreaker. And you can find out more about these technologies and the award recipients at developer.oracle.com, which is our developer portal for all things developer technology related. As you're going around the conference, use the mobile app for navigating. It has the latest information on the sessions. When you sign into the Oracle Events app, click on the plus sign and then choose Oracle Code New York, and that'll add in all the session content for today. So you can see what's going on, including all this content. We're in the keynote now. We have a period in the lounge where you guys can check out some of the Groundbreaker Hub experiences that I talked about. Then we go into developer sessions at 11:30. So those are going to start directly. One session I'd like to highlight for folks that I think is really important is we talked about the next generation of developers, how you can grow your career. We have a great panel for growing your career in a diverse workplace, which is moderated by Rupal Hollenbeck, who is our Senior Vice President of Corporate Marketing, and has a lot of great panelists who have wisdom to share, including Venkat, Ronica, Maria, Jean, and Loyana. So please join us for that panel at 1:10 p.m. in room 9. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have an Oracle Cloud offer for everybody. So you can download a $500 trial for Oracle Cloud at this URL. And please give it a try so you can learn the latest in serverless, Kubernetes, and other emerging technologies. So thank you guys very much for joining us for the keynotes, and enjoy the rest of the day here at Oracle Code New York.